On June 20th, 2017, in a hotel room in downtown Chicago, 5 men walked into a meeting that had been weeks in the making. Across the table sat the founder of the most valuable startup in the history of Silicon Valley, a company worth $68 billion. A company he had built from a single line of code. A company that, within the next 3 hours, he would no longer be allowed to run. His mother had been buried less than a month before. His name was Travis Kalanick. And what those 5 men did to him that afternoon would set in motion one of the longest, quietest, and most devastating revenge campaigns in modern business history. What happened in that Chicago hotel room is well documented. You can read about it in the New York Times. You can read about it in Mike Isaac's book, Super Pumped. You can watch the dramatized version on Showtime. But what almost no one talks about, what no one wants to talk about, is what happened after. Because in the 7 years since that meeting, every single person who voted to push Travis Kalanick out has, in one way or another, paid for that decision. Some lost their jobs. Some lost their reputations. Some lost their fortunes. One left the firm he built. And the most powerful of them all, the man who orchestrated the entire coup, quietly walked away from Silicon Valley in 2020, his legend permanently tarnished. Meanwhile, the man they fired, he didn't get angry. He didn't sue them. He didn't hold a press conference. He went silent, and then he started buying buildings. By the time anyone noticed, he had built a $15 billion empire in an industry no one was watching. That may end up being worth more than Uber itself. This is the story of how Travis Kalanick was stabbed in the back by his own investors and how, without ever raising his voice, he made every one of them regret it. To understand why what happened in 2017 was a betrayal of historic proportions, you have to understand who Travis Kalanick was before any of it. He was born in 1976 in the suburbs of Los Angeles, the son of an engineer and an advertising saleswoman. From the time he could speak, he was obsessed with 2 things, math and winning. By the age of 6, he was building computer programs. By 18, he was running door-to-door sales operations. By 20, he had dropped out of UCLA's computer engineering program to start his first company. It was called Scour, a peer-to-peer file sharing service, Napster's lesser-known cousin. Scour was, by some measures, ahead of its time. By every other measure, it was a catastrophe. By 2000, Travis Kalanick was hit with a $250 billion lawsuit from the entire entertainment industry. MPAA, RAA, every record label and movie studio you can name. They all wanted his head. He was 23 years old. Scour went bankrupt. Travis Kalanick was wiped out. But here's the thing about Travis Kalanick that the men in that Chicago hotel room would, years later, completely fail to understand. He doesn't break. He just builds again. Within months, he had launched a new company, Red Swoosh, built on the corpse of Scour. He spent the next 7 years grinding it into something, sleeping on his parents' couch, skipping meals, running on credit cards. In 2007, he sold Red Swoosh to Akamai for $19 million. He was 31. He had finally won. And then, in 2008, he met a man named Garrett Camp. The story has been told 100 times. Snowy Paris, 2 friends, couldn't get a cab. Garrett Camp wonders out loud. What if you could press a button on your phone and a black car would just show up? Travis Kalanick was skeptical. He didn't even want to run the company. For the first year, he was just an advisor. But by 2010, the operation was a mess. Drivers weren't being paid. The product was unstable. The original CEO had been ejected. Investors were panicking. They needed someone to run it, someone who didn't sleep, someone who would do whatever it took. They needed Travis Kalanick. What happened next is not a Silicon Valley story. It is a war story. Travis Kalanick didn't grow Uber. He invaded cities with it. When regulators tried to ban Uber in Portland, Travis launched anyway and dared the city to arrest his drivers. When taxi unions in Paris organized riots, Travis tripled the marketing budget and offered free rides to anyone who took an Uber through a protest. When Lyft tried to compete, Travis ordered his employees to systematically order and cancel thousands of Lyft rides, a tactic that became known internally as Operation Slog. When the New York City Taxi and Limousine Commission tried to subpoena Uber's data, Travis deployed a piece of software called Greyball. It used machine learning to identify regulators and then it served them a fake version of Uber where no cars ever showed up. Was any of this legal? Often. No. Was it ethical? Almost never. Did it work? By 2015, Uber was operating in 300 cities across 60 countries. By 2016, it was the most valuable private company on planet Earth, $68 billion. Travis Kalanick had built the largest, fastest-growing startup in human history. And then, in November 2016, his board of directors, the people who had funded him, who had backed him, who would cheer him on as he broke law after law to make them billions, decided he had to go. The man who had orchestrated his removal had been watching, planning, and waiting for years. His name was Bill Gurley. To understand what happened, you have to understand Bill Gurley. 6'9", Texan, Stanford Graduate School of Business MBA. By 2016, he was widely considered the most powerful venture capitalist in the world. His firm, Benchmark Capital, had backed eBay, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. He was on the board of OpenTable, Zillow, and, most importantly, Uber. Benchmark Capital had invested $12 million into Uber in 2011. By 2017, that stake was worth over $8 billion, a 660-fold return. Bill Gurley should have been the most loyal man in Travis Kalanick's life. He was about to become his executioner. The trouble began on February 19, 2017. A former Uber engineer named Susan Fowler published a blog post titled Reflecting on one very strange year at Uber. What she described was, by any standard, a corporate horror show, sexual harassment that was reported and ignored, HR departments that protected predators, a culture, she said, that rewarded the worst behavior and punished those who reported it. The post went viral within hours. 2 weeks later, the New York Times broke the Greyball story, exposing Uber's tool for evading regulators around the world. Then, in March, a video leaked to Travis Kalanick himself, in the back of an Uber, screaming at the driver who complained about falling fares. The headline wrote itself. By April, Uber was hemorrhaging executives. By May, Eric Holder, the former Attorney General of the United States, had been hired to investigate Uber's culture. The resulting report would call for sweeping changes to leadership, governance, and structure. The pressure was crushing, but Travis Kalanick was not panicking. He was a fighter. He had survived a $250 billion lawsuit at 23. He could survive this. What he didn't know, what almost no one knew, was that Bill Gurley had already started moving the chess pieces. For months, Bill Gurley had been quietly meeting with the other major investors, building consensus, whispering in private dinners and one-on-one calls that Travis Kalanick had become a liability. By June, Bill Gurley had assembled a coalition of 5 major shareholders, together representing over a quarter of Uber stock. They had drafted a letter. They had hired lawyers. They had a plan. All they needed was a moment. And then, on May 26, 2017, that moment arrived. In the worst possible way, Travis Kalanick's mother died. Bonnie Kalanick had been on a boat with her husband Donald Kalanick on a small lake in Fresno. The boat hit a rock. She drowned. Donald survived, but barely. Travis Kalanick was devastated. He flew to be with his father in the hospital. He took an indefinite leave of absence from Uber. He buried his mother on June 1st. 3 weeks later, 3 weeks, Bill Gurley boarded a private plane to Chicago. What happened in that Chicago hotel suite has been described in detail in court filings, in investor accounts, and in the reporting of journalists like Mike Isaac. 5 investors, 1 letter, 1 demand. Resign. Now, permanently. Travis Kalanick was given hours to decide. There would be no negotiation. There would be no severance. There would be no graceful transition. If he refused, the letter would be made public. The shareholder revolt would be made public. The full board would be forced to fire him in front of the world. Either way, he was finished. Imagine, for a moment, what this looked like from the side of the table. 3 weeks after his mother's funeral, his father's still in a hospital bed. His company, the company he had built, The company had bled for, the company that had made every man in that room obscenely rich, being taken from him by the people he had made rich. Travis Kalanick tried to negotiate. He asked for time. He asked to keep his board seat. He asked for the dignity of being able to write his own resignation letter. They gave him nothing. He signed. Within 24 hours, the news was global. Bill Gurley took to Twitter. He posted, "There are far better days ahead." He praised Travis Kalanick's contributions. He talked about Uber's bright future. Behind closed doors, however, Bill Gurley was not done. In August of 2017, just 2 months after forcing him out, Benchmark Capital filed a lawsuit against Travis Kalanick. The lawsuit accused him of fraud. It demanded he be removed from the board entirely. They were not just firing him, they were trying to erase him. Travis Kalanick's response, in a written statement, was 11 words long. Benchmark's lawsuit is a public attempt at a hostile takeover. He was not wrong, but here is where the story changes. For the next 4 months, Travis Kalanick said almost nothing publicly. No interviews, no tweets, no counter. They could not have been more wrong. While the world watched the lawsuit play out, while Bill Gurley gave interviews and the new CEO, Dara Khosrowshahi, was being celebrated as adult in the room, Travis Kalanick was already executing the next move. In late 2017, a new company was quietly registered in Delaware. Its name was City Storage Systems. Its mission on paper was vague: real estate acquisition, underutilized commercial properties, the kind of dry, boring filing that no journalist would ever bother to read. The company's founder, Travis Kalanick. Travis Kalanick had spent his time in exile thinking about a single insight. Uber had connected riders to drivers. But underneath the surface, Uber was solving a much bigger problem. It was figuring out how to take underused assets and unlock their economic value. What other underused assets were sitting empty across the world's cities? Restaurants, specifically restaurant kitchens. Most restaurants use their kitchen for maybe 8 hours a day. The other 16, they sat dark. What if you could build a network of ghost kitchens, anonymous industrial cooking spaces, optimized purely for delivery? No dining room, no waiters, no street front rent, just kitchens churning out food 24 hours a day for a dozen different delivery brands at once. It was, in essence, the AWS of food, a back-end infrastructure that the entire delivery economy could be built on top of. And while Bill Gurley was busy taking victory laps in the conference circuit, Travis Kalanick was using a chunk of his Uber proceeds to start buying every empty industrial building he could find. By 2018, Saudi Arabia's public investment fund had quietly invested $400 million into the company. Travis Kalanick was now operating with sovereign wealth level capital, in complete privacy, with zero board oversight. And then, in March of 2020, the pandemic hit. Restaurants closed. Dining rooms went dark. Delivery orders surged by hundreds of percent. Every food brand on earth suddenly needed exactly what Travis Kalanick had been quietly building for 3 years: ghost kitchens. By 2021, City Storage Systems, now operating publicly under the name CloudKitchens, was valued at over $15 billion. Travis Kalanick had built, in just under 4 years, in near total silence, a company nearly the size of the original Uber valuation he had been pushed out of, and he had done it without a single board member he didn't pick himself. But here's the thing about quiet revenge. It's not just about what you build. It's about what happens to people who try to bury you. May 10th, 2019, Uber goes public on the New York Stock Exchange. It was supposed to be the largest tech IPO since Facebook. The IPO was priced at $45 per share. By the end of the first day, the stock had fallen to 41. By the end of the first week, 37. By the end of the year, 28. It was, by almost any measure, one of the most disappointing tech IPOs of the modern era. Travis Kalanick, verified through SEC filings, had begun selling his Uber shares in late 2019. He sold at the top. By the end of 2019, he had cashed out approximately $2.5 billion. Then, on December 31st, 2019, he resigned from Uber's board entirely. He never looked back. Bill Gurley remained at Benchmark Capital for 3 more years. In 2020, he quietly stepped back from making new investments. By 2024, he had announced he would no longer take on new portfolio commitments. The man once called the kingmaker of Silicon Valley was, for all practical purposes, retired from active venture capital. The board members who voted to oust Travis Kalanick, most have moved on quietly. None have ever publicly admitted regret. But here's the most revealing detail of all. In the years since 2017, almost every major Silicon Valley founder, when asked privately about the Travis Kalanick removal, has expressed some version of the same opinion. They didn't have to do it that way. The board could have brought in a chief operating officer. They could have separated his executive responsibilities from his board control. They could have done 100 different things. Instead, they chose humiliation 3 weeks after his mother's funeral. And in doing so, they handed him something more valuable than the company they took. They handed him time. They handed him focus. They handed him complete autonomy. CloudKitchens today operates in over 40 cities across 9 countries. Industry analysts believe it could be worth $50 billion or more by the end of the decade. Travis Kalanick is its sole CEO. He has no board. He answers to no one. He is, by current estimates, worth somewhere between $5 and $7 billion. And he is, finally, exactly what he always wanted to be: untouchable. Most revenge stories end with destruction. The hero burns down what was taken from them. Travis Kalanick did the opposite. The best revenge is not destruction. It is irrelevance. The best revenge is to build something so much bigger, so much better, so much more profitable than what they took from you, that the very memory of the betrayal becomes your origin story. Bill Gurley didn't end Travis Kalanick's career. He freed it. Subscribe. Hit the bell. Because in the world of corporate revenge, the quiet ones are always the most dangerous.